channel, and if you're new, hi, my name is Paris, I'm an artist, and today I'm going to be filming a video that absolutely nobody asked for, and that is a bookshelf tour. I decided to film this video because my bookshelf just acquired a ton of books, which if you haven't seen my book haul, I'll link it up in the iCard. I just hold so many books, fantasy, classics and more, so if you're interested in that you can go click on the iCard and watch that video. But I don't plan on buying any more books for a little while. That might be a lie because I have a problem, because I did buy one just a couple days ago. Previously my bookshelf has always been a rainbow for like 3 years-ish, and I decided to change it by flipping books around and having some of the spines showing. The reason why some books are flipped is because I just like the raw book cover look, and also just because the neutral vibe is kind of my thing. I also have my shelves kind of organized by genre, so all the fantasy books are together, all the contemporary books are together, my classics are all together, but in like chunks around the bookshelf, so it's not one whole shelf, it's just like little sections of books, if that makes sense. I'm gonna go through all of them anyways, so you'll be able to see my little organization method. In this video I'm not going to be going into a whole in-depth about what every single book is about, because I have over 60 books and that would take a little while. I'm just gonna pull out the book, show the cover and say the name and then move on.
Okay, hi, this is editing me. I kind of forgot to explain how my books are in my room. So we're gonna start with my main bookshelf, which holds all of my novels and whatnot. Then we're gonna move over to my new age shelf, which holds all my spirituality stuff, which is next to my desk. And then inside the little cubby of my desk I have a couple random extra books that I keep separate from my other ones. Okay, bye.
Okay, so with all that said and done, I am going to begin on the bookshelf tour. The first series that I have is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I have a really big emotional attachment to these books because they really raised me, I guess. I read them 3 times over when I was in primary school and I was such the biggest fangirl ever. These books are part of a box set and they're in a special edition, but I'm not sure what kind of special edition because I got them for Christmas when I was younger. So we have The Hunger Games as the first book in the series, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay. The next 2 books are by Mackenzie Lee, so I have The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, as well as The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. I have these books turned over because the covers, the spines I guess, of these are really ugly, and I hate it because they're just so fluorescent, and I was trying to go for a neutral look, so obviously that wouldn't do, so I turned them over. The next 3 books are part of the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. So the first one on the shelf is Dragonfly and Amber, which is actually the second book, but I have it there because the spine is also ugly and I couldn't bring myself to have it displayed on the shelf, so I turned it over. Then of course I have the first book, Outlander, which I'm pretty sure I rated this book 5 stars because, let's be honest, I love Outlander, I'm in love with it, so of course I gave it 5 stars, and it's really beat up and, you know, gross because it's a long book and I read it a couple years ago when I was a little bit younger, probably too young to read this book, but I carried it around with me everywhere, so that's why it's really gross. And then we have Voyager, which is the 3rd book in the Outlander series. Next I have a stack of horizontal books on my shelf which are turned around also for the aesthetic, I guess. It's meant to be my contemporary stack because of course I don't own too many contemporary books. I honestly don't really enjoy contemporary books that much, and that's okay. Maybe one day I'll branch more into contemporary, but for now I only have a small collection of contemporary books. The first book on the shelf isn't a contemporary, it is a historical book. And this book is What Would Boudica Do? Everyday Problems Solved by History's Most Remarkable Women by E. Foley and B. Coates. Then we have Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, Love Rosie by Cecilia Ahern, maybe? The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and the last of my contemporary books is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. Moving on to more fantasy books, we have Scythe by Neil Shusterman, Serpent and Dove by Shelby Myrne, The Witches of New York by Amy McKay, Heartless by Marissa Meyer, which is actually one of my favourite books of all time. It is such a well-written retelling, and I think I'm actually going to reread this one soon. Nevernight by J. Christoph, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, also by Leigh Bardugo, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Then we have 2 more books turned over, and these books are Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nang and Eve of Man by Giovanni and Tom Fletcher. On the next shelf, the first stack of books that I have are all by the same author, Kerry Maniscalco, and on top of that I have this little plant here in a milk pot, which I think is so cute. I'm pretty sure I got this pot from a market. The first Kerry Maniscalco book I have is Kingdom of the Wicked. Then I have the first 3 books from the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. So I have, obviously, Stalking Jack the Ripper, then Escaping from Houdini, and then Hunting Prince Dracula. Next, I have all the books that I own by Holly Black. The first 4 Holly Black books that I own are all part of the same trilogy, the Folk of the Air series. So we have the Cruel Prince, the Wicked King, the Queen of Nothing, and the novella How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. This series is quickly becoming my favourite series, potentially. If I reread Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses and I read more, it might not be. But at the moment I'm reading The Wicked King and I love it. I'm honestly reading the book super quick. Then we have The Darkest Part of the Forest, which is my last Holly Black book. I'm going to go through these books at the top first before I go through all of the Sarah J Maas books that I own. So this top one here is Magician by Raymond E. Feist. Then I have 2 of Margaret Rogerson's books, Sorcery of Thorns and An Enchantment of Ravens. Now I'm going to go into my Sarah J Maas Holy Grail. Once again, I was obsessed with Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses when I was in both middle school and the beginning of high school. I'm currently in my last year of high school and I haven't read a Sarah J Maas book in maybe 2 years, possibly, maybe 1 year. I really can't remember, but I own almost all of her books except for a couple. The first book that I have here is The Assassin's Blade. I have it turned over because I don't really like the blue spine against all the pretty theme of the white books, which I don't know why they did that, but I guess it's kind of like the novellas to the series, so I guess I get why they didn't keep the theme the same for this book. But let me just say, Sam deserved better, and that's on period. Then I have Throne of Glass, which the cover has actually come off because I loved it so much and I carried it around with me when I was younger. I actually really want to reread this series because I feel like it's going to fill me with lots of memories and nostalgia from when I first read it, and I'm actually kind of really excited. So there is the first book. Then we have Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, which is the last Throne of Glass book that I read of the series. I haven't read Kingdom of Ash yet. Don't worry, I plan to, but I think I'm going to have to reread the whole series before I read Kingdom of Ash because it's been a long time and I honestly can't remember too much. And then of course we have the last book, which is Kingdom of Ash. I also own the other book, Tower of Dawn, but that's at the very end in a hardback edition. Then I have the first 3 books of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, as well as A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wings and Ruin. Then I have Crescent City or House of Earth and Blood. I haven't read this one yet. It's thick, it's an adult book, but I promise I will get around to reading it. The next book is A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is a part of the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, except I'm not really sure what you would call this book because it doesn't really add anything interesting or important to the series. It's kind of like a little extra story, I guess. It's a really short book, but this one I pre-ordered, and with it I got the little special pin, and I was really excited about that one. Then I have Kingdom of Ash, which is, I'm pretty sure this is the USA hardback edition, and it is a thick book. I bought it because I thought that I would just have a last hurrah and buy the last book of the series in hardback since I was so obsessed with it, and I didn't even end up reading either of the 2 books of the same book that I bought, which I think is funny. The last Sarah J Maas book that I own is Tower of Dawn, which is part of the Throne of Glass series. Moving down to the ladder bookshelf, before I get into the books, on the sides I just have some dried flowers from the bouquet that my boyfriend got me. I didn't want to throw them out, so I dried them and hung them on the side here. This little section of books here, and here are kind of like my classics or my kind of like historical books section. I have Pride and Prejudice and Zombies by Jane Austen and Seth Grahame-Smith. The Duchess by Amanda Foreman. This really beautiful and scuffed up edition of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, because my bunny did this once when she was little and I didn't think she was going to rip up my books, and then she ripped up the books. But luckily she only ripped the dust jacket up, because when you take off the dust jacket, this book is so pretty. It has the gold on the side, beautiful ribbon, it has the gold edges, and the embossed cover is so pretty, as well as the inside pages. So gorgeous. Next is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Another Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. The oldest book and item that I own in my room, which is called Alfred by Louie Slade. This book I bought from a used bookshop, which in the cover you can see was dated the 16th of June 1890 by Alfred Futton or Tutton, something like that. I can't really read the cursive that well. But yeah, I got this for only $10 at the bookshop, and I think it's really cool that it was dated so far back. Then I have Emma by Jane Austen, and the last history/classic book that I have is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. Moving on to the last of my fantasy books, I have Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir, To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, and the first two books in Bridget Kemmer's series, A Curse So Dark and Lonely and A Heart So Fierce and Broken. And then next to my books I have this little pothos plant also with this little mushroom figurine in it. I'm trying to turn my room into an enchanted forest, if you couldn't tell, and yeah, it's really cute. That's the only reason why I have them. Moving down, I have Finley's pellets. Finley's my bunny, if you don't know, so I have her pellets and a little jar of treats. And then I have a stack of random books that I didn't really know where else to put. And on top of that, I have my clear quartz cluster. So I have The Healing Power of Plants by Fran Bailey, The Art of Well-Being by Meredith Gaston, What Would She Do by Kay Woodward, and Jane Austen by Brian Wilkes. On the last shelf, I have these two boxes here. This one holds lots of sewing and crafting supplies, and I got this box from the op shop. And then this box here I got from Kmart, and it has all these little sections. I just store all of my jewellery making, random bits and bobs, crafting things, as well as these little mini jars. Just anything small that I could reuse one day, or anything that I use to make crystal jewellery, I keep in here. At the bottom of this bookshelf, there's meant to be the largest shelf here, which I took off so that I could put this container down here, and in here I just keep all of Finley's hay. I thought that it was a pretty smart storage idea by taking out the bottom shelf. I couldn't really put anything on anyways because Finley would jump up and chew whatever I put there, so I thought that storing her hay here would be best. So those are all the books on this bookshelf here, and now I'm going to move over to where my desk is, and here I keep all of my witchcraft books. I'm going to hold the camera for this one so I can fly through it a little bit quicker. The first book that I have here is The Green Witch by Aaron Murphy Hiscock, The Witch's Way by Sean Robbins and Lena Greenway, Moon Magic by Aurora Kane, The Little Book of Practical Magic by Sarah Bartlett, Your Personal Guide to Tarot by Stephen Bright, Wicca Made Easy by Phyllis Carrot, Crystals by Cassandra Eason, and The Illustrated Guide to Crystals by Judy Hall. Next to the shelf where my witch books are on, I have my desk, and here is where I keep two random books that I reference sometimes. Actually, I got this one just the other day, but I didn't really want to put it on my shelf because I haven't read it fully yet, and that is the Self-Care Cookbook by Gemma Odgston, something like that. I bought this so that I can make plant-based food and stay healthy, because I'm really bad at cooking and I'm also really bad at being motivated to cook, so hopefully this will help me take care of myself. And then I have Impressionism. This book is really cool because it has, of course, lots of Impressionist art in it, which I am really in love with. This is probably my favourite era of art. So that was my bookshelf tour. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this chaotic bookshelf tour and seeing every single one of the books on my shelf. Maybe I gave you some recommendations. Maybe this was a big waste of time. Maybe no one's gonna watch it. You never know. But nonetheless, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!